Welcome back to Dano Does Things. This week we are practicing our flat felting skills using wool to paint a beautiful sun and moon picture in an embroidery hoop. I'm using a piece of flat craft felt as my backing, and the embroidery hoop will eventually display the final piece. Whatever pattern you're making, outline the outside hoop. You'll need to felt your wool all the way to this circle so that you don't have blank space along the edges. The inner circle was just for my pattern, and I sketched out the very basic outline of what I want. Now this is going to be harder than it has to be because my felting surface is a tiny. Note to self, make a much larger one. But we'll make do. Time to start felting. Now once you get into felting, you'll discover, as I did, that there are tons of different kinds of needles that you can use. Fine ones, spiral ones, single needles, or multi-needles, but if you're just a beginner, you can absolutely get away with just using a single regular needle that you can find at any craft store. My only advice would be to invest in the wool. The more high-quality wool that you'll find at local yarn stores or through smaller suppliers is vastly superior to the big box craft store wool and is not really that much more expensive. Plus, it makes a world of a difference when you're learning because it's just easier and nicer to work with. Okay, TED Talk on wool quality is over. Now to start, I like to first lay down a base of color. It may seem excessive to not just go straight into whatever pattern or design I'm trying to do, but it really does help for coverage when you're not trying to make sure no background peeks through while you're doing your main designs. Let's just zoom through this because it's really just me doing the same repetitive motion over, and who has time for that? Okay, the base of the moon and the sun are done, and now I'm going to add some details to the moon. We're going to felt in very small amounts of gray and black wool to mimic the craters and shadows of the moon. You can always add more darker spots as you go along, so start sparingly and then build onto it. But you can also go pretty dark and then put a thin layer of your base color over top to soften it. Now to add some interest to the sun, we're going to make it look all swirly and cool. You'll simply take small sections of wool and spiral it around itself to make a little circle. Put that circle on your sun area and felt it down. Once you cover the whole sun with your little circles, you'll get some great depth and texture to your piece. So we definitely could have, and probably should have, done this part before, but now we're putting down the background, a nice dark blue color. It's hard to see on the camera, but since my wool is hand-dyed, it has this really lovely variegation in the colors, which really gives it that look of a mottled sky. Okay, time to zoom ahead once more. We're even going to zoom past the part where I went to put it in the hoop and hadn't felted to pass the edge like I told you guys. Let's just zoom on by. Now this piece definitely could be done. You could easily display it like this, but let's be a little extravagant. I'm going to use some metallic embroidery floss to add some shiny details to this piece. A disclaimer, I had aimed to add more details than I did, but metallic floss is so dang hard to work with. And after like half an hour struggling with it, I gave up. But if you have the patience, you can add some really cool details to your project. Okay, let's jump ahead. The golden rays are complete, and now we're adding some silver to the moon. You'll see my patented technique for threading metallic floss. I gather the floss on a piece of washi tape, making sure that the threads are tightly bundled together. I'll wrap the tape around and then cut it at a sharp angle. I'll then pull that through the needle using tweezers if I have to. It may seem like a struggle, but I promise you it's even less of a struggle than I usually have when threading it. I guess I could just buy a needle threader though. Anyways, I'm using the silver to make almost starburst-like shapes on the moon. Now my suffering with metallic thread is finally over, and here we have our finished piece. We're running a little long on this one, so I'll make a separate video on how to finish this piece for display. If you subscribe, you'll be the first to see it. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.